to Zero Production Value Movie Reviews. As always, I am Hoernke. Today, I'm going to be discussing the 2019 film Transit, directed by Christian Petzold. This is another film that I found where I don't think very many people have seen it. It's a foreign film. It's a German film, but I think they mainly speak French in it because it's set in France. I found this as part of my trying to get the best pictures of 2019 watched, and it's another one off the Metacritic list that I use, where Metacritic compiles a bunch of critics lists, and then based on how many times a movie appears on critics list, best of at the end of the year, and their placement on the list, they get points and get basically ranked at the end of the year accordingly. And this one wound at number 18. Now, most films I go into with some knowledge, like I watch trailers or I read stuff about movies, but as I dig into these more obscure films, I go in with much less prior knowledge. Like I went into this with zero. I had no idea what this was going to be about. And I kind of like that, as it's probably about the purest way to watch a movie. You should be able to just sit down without any idea of what a movie's about and just watch it and enjoy it for what it is. Not even know what genre or what you're getting yourself into. I mean, I pretty much knew it was probably going to be a drama of some sort, but beyond that, I didn't really have any knowledge of it. In this case, it actually presented a little bit of a challenge because they do a little twist with time, and I don't mean they tell it not in chronological order, but it's slightly sci-fi twinged in that it's not a time that ever really existed. It's sort of a fabricated time. What I mean is they take sort of a World War II, they evoke World War II with fascism in France, but instead it's French fascists who are clearing French towns of refugees. So not anything that ever actually occurred in history. They're just taking something and putting a twist on it to try to shed a different light on it. But you watch it, and I'm trying to figure out what the timeline is here, and it seems modernish, although not quite cell phone era, because nobody was running around with cell phones. But it definitely evokes, like I said, World War II, but it definitely didn't look like a World War II movie. So I found that a bit distracting, trying to figure out, because it looks like a very realistically set movie in our world, in our times, and trying to pinpoint that time was futile because it doesn't exist. So we meet our protagonist George in Paris, and he's a German refugee, and we get no data on him. It's just we meet him, we don't know if he's sinner, saint, somewhere in between, and then we just start following him as these fascists are moving through and they're clearing towns, so everybody's trying to flee, and he gets a task to deliver 2 letters to this writer named Weidel. So he goes to do this, dodging authorities. He finds the hotel and finds out that Weidel has killed himself. Well, he takes the writer's things and these letters and ends up going to Marseille as he's fleeing, because Marseille is still hasn't been kind of cleansed, cleared, however you want to term it, yet with an acquaintance. The acquaintance dies along the way due to a previous injury, like an infection or something, and died. So upon arriving at Marseille, George goes and finds this guy's wife and informs her, hey, your husband's passed away, sorry. And the wife has a young kid, and they are also set to flee. They're going to flee into the mountains. As I think they're either Middle Eastern or North Africans, I believe, but they're also not indigenous French, so they're getting the heck out of Dodge too. And George actually strikes up a friendship with the kid, kind of takes him under his wing, and the kid almost immediately latches onto him as a surrogate father figure, and he wants George to come with him into the mountains, and George ends up having other plans. So he goes to the Mexican consulate, and the reason he does that is the 2 letters that he had is one was from the writer's wife, and one was from the Mexican consulate. And it turns out the writer had sort of a free pass to get out of the country to go to Mexico. So the writer goes to the Mexican consulate. He's about to give them the writer's stuff, the letters, and he thinks he might have a finder's fee or something of that nature. And they mistake him for the writer. And so he sees an opportunity here that he can sort of just take the writer's place and in a few days' time have passage on this ship out of France into Mexico. He ends up meeting the writer's wife, Marie, and the writer's wife, Marie, and the wife's boyfriend, lover, doctor named Richard, right? And in fact, one of the letters the wife had delivered, like, sort of given him like a Dear John letter, so the wife wasn't really with the husband anymore. It was kind of unclear, yet she's there in Marseille, incessantly looking for him. For what reason? I don't exactly know. Maybe there's love still there. Maybe it was rocky. We don't really get a lot of backstory on the writer and his wife's relationship. So George ends up falling for her. And she's supposed to be leaving the country with Richard. In fact, she had that opportunity and then didn't because she still wanted to look for her husband. And now George wants her to leave with him. It's a very complex love polygon sort of thing. And to complicate it, Marie keeps going looking for the husband, and now since George is sort of impersonating the husband, people are saying, "Oh yeah, he was here," and she's even talking to George, saying like, "Oh, I keep just missing him," not realizing that that is the him. It's very confusing, and. And George sort of falls for her, and she even sort of reciprocates, which is just weird in and of itself. So it's like, who's going to stay in France? Who's going to leave and be able to depart? You know, who will love who in the end? You know, Richard is supposed to leave to go to a hospital, and Marie's trying to convince him to do that, but he won't leave without her. And all this kind of swirls around. You know, will George come clean to Marie and tell her he's been impersonating the husband? And it all leads to kind of this climax as tension builds, as the fascists are supposedly getting closer and closer to clearing Marseille, so everybody has to get out or risk being cleared, cleansed, imprisoned, whatever shape that takes. I don't know if we ever really get a sense of what exactly happens. I think we just assume people get killed. And so all that ratchets up to a climax, and then it has sort of a bit of a twist ending. And as with most foreign films, it kind of has this lamentable, to some degree, inscrutable ending. You know, as foreign films seem so apt to do. I don't know if all foreign films do that. Some American films do it, but we really like our concrete narrative endings. And foreign films seem much more free to do whatever the heck they want at the end. So I found this film interesting. It definitely holds your attention. It held my attention. I felt that the coincidental relationships were very extreme at how they got people together, and it just was, they had these coincidental relationships that just allowed the plot basically to proceed forward. It was a bit much to be believed. George, even by the end, is somewhat of an unknown quantity. We don't really know what's driving him or what's motivating him or what is possessing him to take any of the action or non-action that he takes. And also his love for Marie, or his infatuation with Marie, was just a bit stretching, I don't know, my suspension of disbelief, as I was like, how would he even like her so quickly, and why would she even reciprocate? It just didn't make any sense except to fuel kind of the melodrama of the plot. So I didn't dislike the film, but I definitely don't see why people thought it was so good. I didn't really feel like the emotion or empathy I think we were supposed to feel for the characters or really any of their plight. And I don't really know what their little kind of time twisty thing as far as their setting, like what that was supposed to do to enhance the story, because to me it was just ended up being more of a distraction because I didn't know about it, you know. So it was, like I said, I was constantly sitting there trying to figure out what was going on with this time and space. So I would say that this film was just okay. Not a strong recommendation. But like I said, it's watchable and it can be entertaining for what it is. Nowhere near my best list of 2019, I'll say that. So for all that, I am going to give Transit, directed by Christian Petzold, a C-. I love you. I appreciate you. Thanks for watching my movie review. Like, subscribe, leave some comments. If you agree with me, disagree with me, want to start a dialogue. As always, I'm Eric Hoernke. That rhymes with turnkey. This has been a production of Zero Value. Thanks for watching.